All right, here we go. These first couple, and I put them kind of how they came, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 2, 4, like all the stuff there. You do need to know your equations, slope, intercept, point, slope, standard form. You need to know those things, so make sure if you don't that you spend a little time on that tonight. That would be helpful. But this first one says, given these points, is this a function? How do you determine if something is a function? If there are repeating x values, it is not a function. So is this a function? No, right? You have a 2 and a 2 in the x. Do your y values matter? You can have as many of the same y values as you want. But if there is a repeat x, the answer is no. Okay, so no repeat x's. Is it a function? The answer here is no. What is your domain and how do you find it? It is your x values, and they must be in order and no repeats, okay? So if I'm going in order and no repeats, here are all my x values. I'm going to go -1, 1, and 2. So what's my range? 1, 2, 3, okay? Your y values in order, right? So here's a 3, a 3, a 2, and a 1. Take those numbers, put them in order with no repeats. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. Let's see. Second one. So they give you a function, f of x equals x squared plus 1, and it says find f of -2. What do you do? Plug in the -2. What happens with that? So if it's f of -2 equals -2 squared, what do we got to do with that? Parentheses. -2 is the x value, and we are squaring the x value. Okay, make sure you put those parentheses in. So -2 plus 1, what do you get? That would be 5. 4 plus 1 is 5. Okay, a negative squared should always become a positive. Now the difference is, what if it was the opposite of x squared? Is that positive or negative in the end? That's negative, right? If it's a -2 squared, you're squaring -2, which makes it a +4, and the opposite of that is -4, okay? So this is very different than that, right? Pay attention to parentheses, pay attention to where your negatives fall. If there's a negative in front of your x and there are no parentheses there, that means take the negative at the end, okay? If it's inside the parentheses, right, if I'm squaring my x value, which is negative, that's going to become positive. Okay, 3A, it says, suppose it costs a company $65 to make 100 toys and $95 to make 220 toys. Write an equation to show the cost y of making x toys. What do you got to do with this? How do you write the equation of a line if we know all those values? What do we think of those values as? How about? This is not the proportion one, but I see why you think that because it looks a lot like those. If we're trying to write the equation of a line, what do we always need to know? The slope, okay? So here's what you do. You treat these like points. So y is the cost, right? So these are your y values. And then x is the toys. So if we think of these as points, my points are 100, 65 and 220, 95, right? They tell us x is the toys, y is the cost. So make sure they're in the right spots. How do you find slope? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so label these. I would call this x1, y1, and x2, y2. right? So I'm going to do 95 minus 65 over 220 minus 100. If you simplify that, you get 30 over 120. So what's your slope? What's 30 over 120 going to reduce to? If you divide by 10, you get 3 over 12, but that's still reducible, right? Simplify that, you get 1/4. Okay, so that is your M. That's your slope. It says write an equation to show the cost of making X toys. So I would start, because I have points and a slope, I would start in point slope form. You don't have to. You could start right away in slope intercept. I'm going to start in point slope. I'm going to use the point that has smaller numbers and my slope of 1/4. So it's going to be y minus what? The y1 value, y minus 65 equals your slope, and then x minus your x1 value. Okay, so it looks like this. If I simplify that, I'm just going to distribute this. So y minus 65 equals 1/4 x minus 25. And then slope intercept form would just be add the 65. So I get y equals 1/4 x, what? Plus or minus? Plus, not 65. You got to do the math here, right? Negative 25 plus 65 would be a positive 40. So this would be slope intercept form, right? This one would be point slope form, and I will tell you which form to put it in, but you should know how to do both. Okay. So then the question is, how much would it cost to make 540 toys? Are you going to plug that in for your X value or your Y value? That's your X value, right? They told us up here, X is our toys. So this is going to be an X value. So you're just going to take that 540 and drop it in. Y equals 1/4 times 540 plus 40. And that comes out to, is it 175? And that's dollars, right? What does it cost? So make sure you label it with that dollar sign. Any questions on that? Okay. Let's head over to number 4. This says write the equation of the line through 2, 1. That's parallel to y equals 3x plus 52. What does it mean? What do we know about parallel lines? Same what? The same slope, right? Their y-intercepts have to be different, but the same slope. What do you know about perpendicular lines? Their slopes. Reciprocal. And you make it negative if it's positive or positive negative. So it's the opposite reciprocal for perpendicular. This one says parallel, right? So what are we pulling out of this equation? The slope. What is our slope? 3. So this is going to be your slope. The 52 means nothing. We don't want it. Please don't use it, okay? If I want point slope form right now, that would be y, here's your x and y value. So y minus 1 equals 3 times x minus 2. Okay, so if I ask you, put it into point slope form, you're done. That is point slope form. If I say put it into slope intercept form, what do you do with this? What's your first step? Distribute first. Yeah, we're going to distribute. So this is going to be y minus 1 equals 3x minus 6. Then we're going to add our 1. So it will be y equals 3x minus 5. Okay, so notice, same slope, right? Same slope, but a different y-intercept than we started with, excuse me. If you're looking at this little chart here, this is where it was the undefined, right? No slope or undefined, same thing. Okay. Let's take a look at this one. This says graph it, okay? And notice it asks for an x-intercept and a y-intercept. So how do you graph when it needs an x-intercept and a y-intercept? Do you remember what we called it? That was the cover-up, right? Ignore the one variable and write your equation. Ignore the other variable, write your equation. So this will be, for the x-intercept, 2x equals negative 18. So what's your equation for the y-intercept? 3y, your y value, equals negative 18, right? So cover up the one, cover up the other. You should get two equations and solve them both. So if I solve, divide by 2, then x is negative 9. This one, divide by 3. So my y-intercept is negative 6. If we plot those, okay, you get, let's see. Ooh, this doesn't fit, huh? You want to count by 2s, or do you want to give extra dashes, so hash marks? Count by 3s? You want to count by 3s? 3 is a good number. We'll count by 3s. Do you know why she wants to count by 3s? Because 9 and 6 work really well with 3, right? Those are multiples of 3. It's a brilliant idea. So if we count by 3, okay, this is 3, this is negative 3, negative 6, negative 9. This would be a negative 3, negative 6, negative 9. So my x-intercept being a negative 9 is here. My y-intercept being a negative 6, so on the y-axis, right there. And then my line would look like this. Okay, now this says what is the slope? What is the slope of that line? Close. Negative 2/3. If I'm going from left to right, it's down 2, so that's negative 2 over 1, 2, 3. So that's a slope of negative 2/3. Okay. All right. How do you graph this? Y equals 1/3 x plus 2. Where do you go first? The y-intercept first, right? This is your y-intercept. Ari, are you with me? Yeah. So up 2, 1, 2, right? Puts me there. Where do you move for a slope of 1/3? Up 1, to the right 3. So up 1, 1, 2, 3 to the right will put me here. Okay, and if you want to go the other way, you can go like this, just to see more points. In this case, it's asking you for the intercept, so I would just keep going just so you see exactly where it hits on the graph. That's up to you. So your x-intercept, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is technically the point negative 6, 0, or you can just tell me it's at negative 6. I'm fine with that. Either one of those is fine. Your y-intercept is what? 2, or the point 0, 2, if you want to name it as a point. What's the slope of that line? It's 1/3, right? It was given to you in the equation, 1/3. Bless you. Okay, tell me the difference between these next two. X equals 3 and y equals negative 2. What is x equals going to be? What is y equals going to be? X is vertical, y is horizontal. If x is always 3, think about plotting points. X is 3 here, and here, and here, and here, right? So my line is this. X equals 3 is a vertical line. So what's your x-intercept? Where did you hit your x-axis? At 3. What's your y-intercept? Does it hit at 0? The graph would have to go through right there. There isn't one. You say none, right? There is no y-intercept. And what is the slope of a vertical? I almost said it. Of a vertical line? Undefined. Okay, or you could say no slope. All right, so this one, y equals, that's a horizontal line at -2. So where your y value is always -2 is going to look like that. Oops. What is your x-intercept? None. It's not 0, right? There isn't one. It does not hit the x-axis. It's parallel to the x-axis. What's your y-intercept? -2. And then your slope is 0. Any horizontal line has a slope of 0. Okay? So far, so good? Halfway there. I'm going to come back to the 2-5 thing. But I did, if you noticed, I did put all the things you need to click in there. But we're going to skip over it for now just because I don't want to have to jump back and forth between iPad and computer. So we're going to move on to 2-6 and I'll come back to 2-5. So these are the ones you have to do without the calculator. This was the quiz you just took, right? Where are you moving for x minus 4 in parentheses squared? To the right 4. And if I were you, I might just write that down just so that your brain is like really thinking about it. Figure out where you're going. To the right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. What shape is this graph? A U. It's a parabola. Okay. Is it opening up or down? Up. And do you have an A value? You do. What is it? It's 1, right? If there's nothing out in front, it's just a 1. So you're going up 1 over 1 and then making your U. Okay. Number 11. What's your vertex? Be careful. 2, 5. Okay. Remember, it's opposite of what it seems inside and the same as what you see outside. So it's a +2 and a +5. So if you plot that, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's my vertex. What's the shape of this graph? It's a V because it's got the absolute value bars, right? So that tells you V. What else do you know? It's going to go down, right? The -3 means I'm going to go down 3 to the right one and down 3 to the left one. So my graph looks like this. Questions on that? All right, number 12, write the equation of y equals the absolute value of x if it's shifted up 2 and right 4. Where's that up 2 gonna fall? Inside the bars or outside the bars? This is gonna be outside. Oop, and the same as what you would expect in terms of the sign. This one's gonna be inside and opposite of what you would expect. So it's y equals the absolute value of x. So inside, if I'm going to the right 4, normally we would think to the right is positive or negative. To the right would normally be positive. We're gonna make it minus that number, right? So it's gonna be x minus 4, and then up 2 plus 2. That's outside your absolute value bars. Okay, last thing, and then we'll go back to the 2-5 stuff. It says if x and y vary directly, right? Y, or x varies directly with y. They vary directly. And x is 7 when y is 42. Find x when y is 108. Technically, does it matter which one is on top or bottom? No, because the properties of proportion says if I take y over x equal to y over x, that's the same as x over y equals x over y, right? So the setup of it is not what's important. What's important is that your x relates to your x and your y relates to your y in this scenario, okay? So how would you set it up? What's your proportion, Sean?
7/42 is equal to x over 1.
Okay, so you can set it up like this, or you could set it up 42/7 equals 108 over y, because properties of proportion says it's okay to flip them and you'll still get the same answer, okay? But then you cross multiply it, so 42x equals 756, and then divide by 42. So x is 18. Good. Good on that? Okay, I'm gonna click away from this. I'll still record. To what? Yeah. I'll still record, so if you're needing like the walkthrough on the 2-5 section, you'll still at least hear my voice telling you what to do, but you're not gonna see the calculator on the video if you go back and watch the video. That's not what I want. Okay. You have a chart there. It says use these points to draw a scatter plot, find the trend line, and then find y if x is 10. What should be your first step every time? Clear out y. So you go to y equals. If there's an equation in there, you hit clear, okay? Notice your plot 1. You should have a dark box around your plot 1. If you don't, you're not going to see any points, and that's a problem. Where do you go next? Stat, okay? Stat, and then hit enter, because we want to edit. But those are not the numbers we want, so we need to clear out our list. So go up to L2, hit clear, and then enter. Do this with me, muscle memory. Up to L1, hit clear, and then enter. Okay. Then we look at our numbers there. So 1, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is it a function? Two x's, right? 2 3s in your x's. 1, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then your y values, you have 2, 3, 3.75, 4, 3.25, and 4.5. Okay, verify that your lists are the same length. These ones are, so we're good. And then if you want to see the plots, you could do zoom 9 right now. That's the part I usually skip and come back to later, but that would be your picture right now. Is that a positive correlation, negative correlation, no correlation? Positive. It's on its way up, I would say. There's a little bit of leeway in that, right? But generally speaking, it's on its way up. Okay, so now go stat, and then let's calculate. So arrow over to calculate. What number do you hit here? 4. We want this linear regression, not this one, right? So hit 4 or go arrow down to 4. And then we're going to enter, enter, enter so we can store it. How do you store it? Alpha, trace, enter, or 1, okay? Now we want to calculate. So enter one more time, and you should see all this. Is this a strong correlation? Yeah, a B on a test is great, right? 82%, 83%. So this is a strong correlation. And then you would write your equation. I'll just write it up here. Did I say where to round on here? I did not. We'll go to 2 decimal places. So y equals, what did I do on here? Oh, I did 3. I'm going to go to 3 just so that my numbers are the same. So to 3 decimal places, 0.413 times x, and then what? plus 1.902. Okay, so this should be your trend line. That's your equation for your line of best fit. How do you see it? How do you see your line? Graph or Zoom 9. Let's do Zoom 9 just to make sure we have a good window. So then you're going to plot, and we'll go here. Okay, you have the line started kind of here and it ended over here. So draw that line in and then put your points around it. So one down low, these two are right over top of each other. One here, and one here. Okay. How do you see your ranges, your X and Y values? Window. Okay, and here's what I want you to think about. They're telling you what you're seeing. And if the points you put in were 1, 3, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and your X range is like 17, 19, that doesn't make sense, right? So we went from 0.5 for our X values up to 6.5, right? It's within that range. Then our Y values, we went from 1.575 to 4.925. Okay. So then it says find Y when X is 10. What do? You plug in 10 for your X value. So you're going to plug in right here. Instead of your X, you're going to plug in a 10 and then plug that into your calculator. What do you get? 6.032. Questions on that? Okay, submit that document so that you get 5 points for it.